Hi, it's Kathy from Bishopstone Yarns. I'd like to welcome everybody here to this episode 25 of the Bishopstone Yarns podcast. And as I said before, my name's Kathy and I'm coming to you from Tasmania, which is the little island to the south of Australia. And I'm in the corner of my studio at the moment. I had to take my glasses off because I wasn't able to find anywhere that I could kind of look at the camera without getting a big huge glare on my glasses. So I'd like to welcome everyone. If you're a returning viewer, hi, it's great to see you again. Always enjoy spending some time with you. And if you're a new viewer, welcome. I hope you enjoy a little bit of time hearing about what I've been crafting. And as always, if you like this video, give it the like button, press the like button. And if you haven't already subscribed, it'd be great if you could subscribe because that helps me out here on this little area of the YouTubes and also helps other people find this video as well. So this is a mainly knitting podcast and crafting, and then every other time that I do a podcast, it's usually more of a spinning podcast. I was making an episode every week, but I've just decided to have a try and see, do it every 2 weeks. And so in 2 weeks' time, I will be doing my spinning podcast, and then in another 2 weeks, I will be doing my knitting podcast. And I think I forgot to mention that today is Monday, the 8th of August. And yeah, I guess that's really enough about me. But I should probably let you know where you can find me on the internet as well. So you can find me as Bishopstone Yarns on Facebook. You can find me as Bishopstone Yarns on Instagram. If you're on Ravelry, then you can find me as Bishopstone. And I do have a blog on Blogger called Bishopstone Yarns, which I use occasionally. I used to use it a lot more, but yeah, I only just post occasionally on that. So I think that's probably everywhere you can, or most places you can find me around the internet. And yeah, I guess at first I was thinking, because I've decided to leave it 2 weeks between filming. I thought, oh, well, that would be good. It'll give me more time to get things done and more time to organise myself before the next podcast. But time seems to have gone very quickly. For those people who are returning viewers, you'll know that I've just spent all of July spinning for the Tour de Fleece. And I'm happy to say that I think I have got enough now. I've spun up enough for my jumper's worth, which I will talk a little bit about later, but mainly go into that in the next episode when I talk a bit more about my spinning and what I've been doing. So, so join me in another 2 weeks and you'll hear all about my spinning from the Tour de Fleece and what I've done and what I'm up to. I will give you a quick peek later on in this episode just about what I've done. I guess I should start with some knitting. What have I been knitting? And for those who know, I have been knitting lots of socks. I haven't knitted socks for quite a while, so I think it can be a little bit like you start knitting socks and then you get into the groove of knitting socks and then you continue. And then the other day I came across 2 half balls of sock yarn where I had knitted up socks previously from each ball, and I thought, oh, I can't have them just sitting there looking at me. I should knit them up and make some socks. I think this is my fourth or fifth pair of socks. Fifth, I think, pair of socks in a row. There's sock yarn everywhere. And so what I have started is a 2 at a time toe up socks, just not really with any sort of a pattern, just so as you can see here, I have cast on from the toes, I've knitted heel, and at the moment I am just working on the cuff, so I'm almost there. Don't know if you can kind of tell, this colorway was a slightly different colorway to this one, so that, as I was saying, there were two different balls that I found that had, you know, I guess they were about half full or maybe a third of the ball left over, and so that's where I'm up to with him at the moment. And I didn't end up doing on the heel here, I've just done a plain, you can see here, I've just done plain knitting on the heel. Usually I do a slip one, knit one, kind of rib across the heel, which kind of pulls it in a bit. But I find actually it still fits really well. It kind of fits my foot really well. I think if I was doing these over, I would have had a few less rows in the toe, or, you know, just in the length of the foot. I think it's about, I don't know, 2 or 3 rows a little bit longer than I normally knit. I don't know how that happened. I used exactly the same measurements that I always do for where I start my heel when I'm doing toe up, yeah, I don't know, maybe I when I was measuring it, I wasn't as precise as I usually am, but that's okay. So I'll just decide on how much more of the cuff I want to do, and then that will be another pair of socks. I do still have, oh, if I just lean down here, this is a big mess, this ball of wool, but I do have quite a bit of this left. So I had even thought about making a pair of spiral socks out of those, because I'm not really sure if there's enough yarn there to knit an entire pair of socks again. So maybe I thought if I just did a toe up spiral socks, just like for house socks with no heel, then I could just continue knitting a tube until it gets to the end and then cast off and then see how, and if it was too short I could always get a different color just to put in for a ribbed cuff or something like that at the top of it if I felt that it needed it. But considering that I have started knitting on this wool and I wanted to use it all up, I'm quite tempted to just do one more pair of socks and then that should be it. One of the reasons why I'm really happy to have been knitting so many socks here, one after the other, is that it's been a little while since I've knitted socks, and some of my hand knitted socks are getting a bit old and probably can do with being replaced. So yeah, so maybe what I'll do is I'll just end up kind of slowly replacing all those old and faded hand knitted socks with my new lot of knitted socks. But yeah, so anyway, so that pattern's nearly finished. And the other, well, one of the reasons why I actually started knitting the socks was because I was knitting a different project, which now I'm kind of trying to work out where the here it is. Okay, so here is the pattern. Hold on, let me get myself organized here. Okay, so I started knitting this, which is the camera going to it's not a very good doesn't show you off the picture very well. So this is a replica shawl pattern, Danish shawl pattern. So it's a replica of an 1897 Kaellingesjal shawl, which is in the Fender style. museum in Denmark. I'll just hold that up so you can have a look. Oh, it's going to. And was it going to? Don't know if my camera's going to. There we go. Anyway, so, and this was a free pattern on Ravelry, so you can find it on Ravelry. So I started knitting this, and I started knitting it with some hand spun of mine, some where I had spun one strand of wool and one strand of silk. And so this is the ball of yarn, which it's not going to focus very well on that. And I talked about this last time, but I wasn't very happy with the plying that I did, and so I didn't want to use it on anything that was going to be too hard wearing. So to knit the shawl, what you do is you start off with a border, get halfway along the border, then you do a point for the middle of the border, then you do the second part of the border, and then you come back, pick up stitches, and then you do the triangular shawl. So what I did was I started off doing the shawl, and I did modify it a little bit by I don't know if you can see here, the garter stitch actually in the pattern is on this side of the edging, but I liked the look of it better on this side. So I had modified the pattern a bit, so these would be on this side of the pattern. And then I thought that kind of looked quite nice. I liked the way it was looking. And then I kept going until I got to the length that I thought. Kind of, if you kind of imagine if I was kind of here, and then the shawl, that would be half of the shawl. And I thought, oh yes, that's a nice kind of length. And then we came along to here, and then I came to do the central point, which is here. See if I can show it to you. So I was knitting along, thinking, oh yes, that's lovely. That will look really nice here. Oh, I can't even find it. Okay, so that will be the center of the shawl, and then that would look lovely. And then you continue on over this side, you continue on with the other half of the border of your shawl. But the problem was when I looked at the pattern, so I've got the point here, the points for the shawl, the outer edge of the shawl is now, of course, pointing inwards to what will be effectively the center of the shawl. Let me turn it around this way, it might be easier. So this is it upside down, and here is the edging of the shawl. And so I thought, oh gosh, it's because I thought, oh well, it's because I've modified the pattern myself, and I didn't take into account which way this central point was going. And so I put it down, decided to start knitting the socks to work out, what am I going to do? How can I save this? Is there a way I could maybe come back and pick up and then, you know, knit in between each one of these and leave that on the inside? Then I thought, oh no, that's not going to work. Maybe I could keep that as the outer border, still have this having no peak here at the bottom of the shawl, but then just pick up my stitches and incorporate this triangle as part of the inner side of the shawl. But then I thought, oh, it seems like a lot of work. So I thought I'll put it away. I'll have a think about it. So I put that down, and then I thought, well, I'll start with some other handspun that I've got. So I found this. There we go. Some handspun, and I decided to start knitting the shawl, but this time I thought I won't modify it at all. I will, there we go, show you the right side. So then I will start, and so now you can see I've got my garter triangle here on the inside of the shawl, and the points are out here with the lace, and that's how it should be. So then I started knitting along, following the pattern, and lo and behold, look what happened again. So this was following exactly along with the written pattern. I hadn't modified anything, I hadn't changed anything, and then I realized, I can't believe this has happened again. The point is also on the wrong side. But not only is the point on the wrong side, we've gone from the right side of the shawl border to the wrong side of the shawl border, if that makes any sense. If I turn that over, you can see this is the right side. So then I was thinking, oh, maybe it's just as simple as the fact that there should be an extra row between finishing off the last of these points and then starting the actual, point here of the shawl. I think there should have been an extra row here of knit, but it definitely doesn't say that in the pattern. And so after having done this twice and got the same results, and this one was even, I shouldn't say worse, or even more of a mistake, because this was on the wrong side, I thought about it a bit, and then I thought, even if I added that extra row, I have to make sure that if I rip this back to here, when I re-knit it, I have to make sure that the point is going to be going in the opposite direction. Anyway, it was a little bit too much for me to think about at that time, so I put both of these down and started knitting socks instead. So now I have the two borders of the start of this shawl with a point going in the wrong direction. So then I wasn't really quite sure whether I would, well, my first thought was I'll rip this one back to here, add the extra row, and then see if when I knit this point, the point will be facing the other way and be correct. And with the purple one, I thought maybe, because I'd already modified it a little bit, I thought maybe I will just rip it back to here, keep it with a straight border, keep it with this nice straight border, and actually have a straight kind of scarf type shawl. Instead of having a triangular one, I would just do a more of a rectangular shape, because I think what I need to actually do is actually write down the pattern and make sure that I can swap the red one, this reddy pink one, over. Make sure that if I rip it back and then start again on this central point, that I make sure that it's definitely going to be having the point up this side to coincide with the edges, because otherwise my shawl is just not going to, work. And I mean, it's quite an easy knit, so it's not going to be too difficult to rip it back and restart, but it's just frustrating, the fact that both borders it happened on. I did go online. I did go onto Ravelry. I did try and have a look and see what other people had to say about it, to see if there was anywhere I could get some extra help for the shawl. And I did notice some people had said there was a little bit of a difference between the Danish pattern that the lady had written and the English version. So, but I couldn't find where those differences were. There wasn't a lot of discussion in terms of exactly what people did. I did find someone else who had exactly the same problem as me, but then there wasn't any resolution or anything about how to fix that problem. So I might just play around with it and see how I go, because I was really enjoying the knit, and it's just disappointing to have had the same problem happen with both shawls. I mean, the first one, the purple one, because I modified it, I thought it was my problem. I had made the mistake because I hadn't taken into account, swapping over the modifications that I'd made. But then when it happened with the second one as well, I think there's something missing in the pattern, so I have to go back and have a look at that. I'll let you know how it goes. If anyone else has knitted this pattern, I would love to know what you did. Or if anyone else knows, has any suggestions on how I could make sure that the central point definitely goes the opposite way, that would be great. If there was a chart, it's only a written pattern, and I kind of feel if there was a chart, it would be quite easy then to kind of flip the chart, so I would know that it would definitely end up with a point on the other side, on the correct side of the shawl, if that makes any sense. Hopefully next time I talk to you with my knitting podcast, hopefully I would have figured it all out and it will be going fine. Anyway, yes. Now very quickly, so I think I'll move on from that little that little problem. The next thing, like I was saying, July has been dedicated to lots and lots of spinning for Tour de Fleece. So I am spinning for the Birkin, and so I'm going to be talking about this Birkin forever, I feel like. So I have finished. So the main part of the body is this one here, and so I've just got a little tag on there. So this skein is 280 meters. I've got 7 skeins round about the same length. They kind of vary a little bit more, a little bit less in each skein. So I've got 7 skeins of those, and then I have spun up. Where's it going to? Why doesn't my camera want to focus? So I have got 2, 3 of these skeins, I'm not quite sure, and this one is 320 meters. So this will be the yoke, and so if you kind of imagine the 2 colors, there's the jumper, and I have decided to dye the body. Whoops, that's one of my hairs. I've decided to dye the body blue, and then I will leave most of this white. I might add in just one other color into the yoke, but this one will be a lovely blue, like a really deep blue, hopefully. So that will also be one of my next projects, is dyeing up. Yes, so stay tuned and you'll be able to see me. I'll be talking more about this and how much meterage I've got all up for the whole project, and what I'm spinning for next. But I will talk about that next time in my next podcast. So once I had finished spinning, because July has taken up a lot of time in terms of I've been spinning every single day and trying to get a lot of carding done, a lot of spinning. So then what I have finally had a little bit of time to do is some other things. So I have done a tiny bit of work on my Sweet Pea by La-di-da. And it's only a small bit. I haven't done a great deal of work here. Let's see if I can hold it up so you can see. I've just started on the legs. Last time I'd only just had the pink on the ears. Now I have started by adding a little... Ooh, camera, what are you doing? So I have added a little bit of colour to the legs, and I'm so happy to be back doing a bit more cross stitch. I have done a little bit of work on the Hugs and Kisses bag. So let me just... I'll show you what I've been doing. I have started by adding on my working my way up some of the little runs of colour. I find it quite difficult to know. I'm trying to kind of like knit one, sew these two together, sew these, and then kind of keep going. Kind of, it's a little tricky to know. It's like a jigsaw puzzle trying to work out where to start sewing and how to sew all of them together without having to kind of backtrack. But as you can tell, quite a few of these I have to go back and sew these other edges in. So I've just started on my, whoops, this one's a little bit hard to see. So I've just started on my next little run of colours for the one side of the bag. And yeah, that's probably about as much sewing as I've got done. But it is really nice to have moved on. Well, I'm still spinning, but at least I'm not spinning every day now. So it's nice to have a little bit of time to getting back into doing a little bit of sewing, a little bit of cross stitch. And yeah, I think that's about everything really. I haven't really been doing much else. As you know, all types of crafts do seem to take up quite a bit of time, and you always think that you're going to get a lot more done than you do, but I've been enjoying it. I've really enjoyed July. I've really enjoyed actually getting as much spinning done as I have, and being able to kind of get through a project that would have taken me quite a long time to do, even if it did mean that I had to put aside some of my other crafting for a little bit of time. But that's okay. I hope everyone else has had a really nice 2 weeks. I hope you've had a chance to do some crafting and relaxing, and yeah, I'd love to hear what you've been up to. I love to read people's comments, so please leave a comment. Let me know what you've been making and what you've been doing, or if you've been in Tour de Fleece. I'd love to know how you went with that and how you managed to fit in your Tour de Fleece time with everything else and life as well. And also anyone who may have knitted the Danish shawl or knows what I could do to help me out with that pattern, that would be great. Yeah. Anyway, thank you very much for joining me for this quick episode of Bishopstone Yarns. If you like the episode,